Hey folks, I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. I hope everybody's enjoying these because this actually takes a lot of work to make all these videos while also doing the project itself. It adds a lot more time and effort than I expected it to. But if you're enjoying, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I like answering questions if you have anything to ask me, so feel free. Anyways, I wanted to make this video to kind of introduce my next video that I'm gonna have after this, but also so that hopefully you guys can avoid some of the mistakes I made when at least going through the process of getting the HVAC system that I did while building my own house. So why don't we go over and see them kind of. So these are my two units. This one, as well as obviously the one the camera is sitting on. Now I'm looking at them like this because the front of the unit has the name of the unit and company on it, and I don't really want to just call them out because this is kind of a video bashing their product and I don't want to be too much of a jerk. But anyways, so what these are air to water heat pumps. So unlike a traditional mini split unit that uses refrigerant to go through the house to the indoor units and heat and cool that way, these are heating and cooling water and sending that through water lines to indoor fan coil units. So it's essentially just a hydronic system, which isn't anything new, and it's just going to fan coil units inside instead of like radiators or radiant floor heating, things like that. So all that sounded good. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I was only just kind of researching all this stuff when I was going through and building my house. And what I had initially started going towards was the typical mini split type of system. But what happened, I knew I wanted to try and build my house good and airtight, and in so doing would need a whole house ventilation system. So I got a hold of my regional local Zender dealer, and this has nothing to do with Zender. Their system has worked perfectly fine since I got it. No issues there. Sorry, I turned around. I think the wind direction's better for my mic this way, hopefully. Anyways, so what happened was when I got that system from him, he also sold me on these. I think he just started selling these. I don't know if the wind is any better over here. I think it's okay. Now, he actually didn't have much experience with these either because these were pretty new at the time and the company was pretty new. But he sold me on these things, basically saying these are gonna be the next great thing in HVAC efficiency. And in truth, they are pretty efficient. However, they don't quite perform down to the temperatures that a lot of the modern mini splits can do. That can do like heat down to negative 13 degrees or even negative like 22 degrees. These, I think, are basically down to 5 degrees and then they're not really doing much anymore. But what happened in my case, and this is pretty important if you're doing a lot of this stuff yourself or ever having to deal with this stuff, what I did was I got my house rated for its efficiency. I think at the time I was just really into thinking that I was just gonna make a super great, super efficient house based on all this new like modern building science stuff. And me and my dad did most of this work ourselves, and I planned all this stuff out mostly myself. So I think I got this one, a HERS rating, and I don't even remember what it was. It was pretty good. The guy's like, wow, really efficient, cool, great. I was like, awesome. But I got this rating probably mostly out of ego, thinking, yeah, sweet, I just have this really efficient house and I can prove it with this rating. But whatever. So I didn't know what I was doing with regards to HVAC stuff. And when I went to actually get it from this guy, I needed to have a calculation on my house. And he says, you need a manual J calculation. I says, I have this HERS rating, does that work? And he says, sure. Big mistake. So he sizes my system and my indoor fan coil units based on my HERS rating and just the rooms and stuff. And you might want one here, you might want one here. So you got good air circulation, good heating and cooling directly in this spot because, bedrooms and whatnot. So how these units work is each one, they have one size and it's about 30,000 BTUs. I think it's a little higher heating, a little, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's around there. And you don't have a different size unit. If you need more than that, you just have to get a second unit. So he sized it as one unit and I had 6 indoor fan coil units. And these aren't the upper wall units that are typical to most mini splits. Now you can get those, but it's more expensive for those, and those all run in 220, and these aren't connected to this outdoor unit. Like a mini split head is powered by the outdoor unit. You have the wire, harness, and cable going directly, like with your piping, out to the outdoor unit to be controlled and powered by that. These all had to be individually wired, not individually, but they were all in a single circuit. But they had to be separately wired and circuited from the main unit. So what I ended up going with was all the low wall fan coil units, which I thought I'd be fine with and thought, whatever. I think they'll just kind of disappear and you won't see them after a while. You'll just get used to seeing them. Not true, for a couple reasons, but I ended up liking them a lot less than I expected. Partly because they do take up wall space, so it kind of hinders what you can do in a room when this is taking up a good portion of the wall in some places. Also, something that's kind of stupid with those indoor units is, at least these particular ones, is the digital display on top can't be turned off. The digital display is always on, displaying the current temperature and what modes you have it in. And the problem is the mode designation is just an LED light. And if you want to put it in auto, so in terms of like the fan speed, high, medium, or low, if it's in auto, it's just sequentially going through the high, medium, low LEDs constantly blinking. Now during the day, that's fine, it doesn't matter. But at night, if you're in your bedroom, you have this LED constantly going sequentially, lighting up at the unit itself, and it's really kind of stupid and annoying. And sorry, the design of that was very poor on whoever has done that. That should be something completely different, or you should be able to shut it off so you don't see it. So my father and I installed this system, which my dealer said, he's like, hey, if you're handy or doing this stuff, this should be no problem. You guys can handle the installation yourselves, easy peasy. So we do. I end up also buying a tank from them, a 30-something gallon tank that can take backup heaters, essentially just water heater coils in them, which we did as backup heat source because these can't handle down to like negative temperatures or even really low, like 10s or teens. They can't handle all that well. So I had to have backup, just purely electric heat with these units. And this was like an $800 tank. And I think it was kind of alluded, at least this is how I interpreted it, that I would need this tank as like some sort of expansion tank, or the unit is basically just having to heat the tank. And it turns out I don't think I really needed this tank. So there may have been a big waste of money right there. So, and how this works is, and what they told me to do is run a 1-inch PEX trunk from the unit out to the very last unit and then back. And then each fan coil unit gets a 3/4 inch branch off of that trunk running to it. So that's how it has water running through the whole system to each fan coil unit. So it's basically just a supply and return going in and out. So fast forward a year or so, we've been using this. We used it through a heating season and a cooling season, and neither really performed to the level that we were expecting or hoping. So in the heating season, even with the backup, like 4,500 watt hot water heating element in the tank, our house still never got to a comfortable warmth inside. And in the summertime, it kept it cool enough, but it never felt that great. It was kind of always on that edge of just getting uncomfortable because they weren't cooling enough and they weren't dehumidifying enough either. So like a year or maybe a little over a year later, after using the system, being in the house, I called the company up directly and I basically just say, what the heck? Like, the system isn't performing to the level that it was sold to me at all. It hasn't been efficient, and it hasn't heated and cooled very well at all. And what this guy tells me is, did you get a manual J calculation, which is a heat load calculation for your house? And they would do like a room by room heat load calculation, what every room needs to heat at a, kind of a specified temperature or cool. And I said, no, I told him I had this other rating, and he says he could just base it off of that. And he's like, no. you need a manual J calculation. So that was a big mistake from the start. This guy should have known that, no, I absolutely need a manual J heat load calculation on my house, and I never got one. So that's what I do. I actually just go online, and you can get them online. You just give them all your stats, basically your house plans, so they can see the square footage and layout of everything. So I give them all that information. I get a heat load manual J calculation. I go back to the company, and the guy says, well, yeah, here you go. The outdoor unit does not have enough BTUs to support your house. Even though our house was pretty efficient, it was too big for this single size unit. So we then have to shell out another $4-something grand for a second outdoor unit, as well as their now new backup heater that they had separate from the tank, which is supposed to be able to modulate and be more efficient and only give you exactly what you need. It's variable as opposed to just giving you straight 4,500 watts or whatever. And they also told me I should buy a separate pump, just a water pump that's on essentially continuously. So it's pulling from the tank, and I have 2 units now feeding the tank, basically just going in and out of the tank. They're just pulling water from the tank and constantly heating or cooling that. And then this pump is going out the other side of the tank, pulling it and sending it out to the house. So I buy a new piping, I buy this pump, all this stuff, spend thousands more, and we're running with this system. And then, this is so ridiculous, my first unit stops working. So I just now get 2 units, and then I'm back down to 1 unit already again, because the original one stops working. And I can't remember if this, because I had a few different problems with these things. So I think this is what ended up happening was I kept having the IPM module blowing on this thing, which essentially was described to me as like the brains of the unit. And it kept just, I don't know, getting a surge of power and just blowing it and destroying the thing. Now, to the company's credit, they did send me new ones every time for free. It was all still under warranty, but I had to do the installation myself, which wasn't very hard, but I ended up doing it like 5 times, which was just super annoying because every time I put a new one in, start the unit up, as soon as the compressor tried to kick on, boom, it blew. And they're like, okay, well, it can't be the compressor. These are like top of the line Mitsubishi compressors. We've never had any issues with these so far yet. It can't be the compressor. It's got to be something else. So they're having me take voltage readings, ohm readings, all over this thing. They're sending me new modules. They just keep blowing. I think I honestly went through like 4 or 5 of them. 4 of them before the final one that ended up not blowing. But that was because eventually we discovered that, yeah, the compressor had gone bad. It had grounded out or something inside. So as soon as it tried to kick on, it basically shorted out the IPM module and just blew it. So I had to get a new compressor, which again, they sent me for free under warranty, so good there. However, whereas I could install the IPM modules, I could not install the compressor myself. So I had to get a company, which was a pain in the butt, to get a local HVAC company come out and work on something, fix something that they don't work on. Because I had several companies say, oh, no, we only service stuff that we work on or we install and do whatever. And a lot of people didn't even want to touch it. They're just like, I don't know what that is. I don't want to touch it. So thankfully, I was able to find one company. They were really good to work with in my local area. And I said, I have the compressor. All you need to do is install it. And so they sent a guy out. He did it within 4 hours. He was done. And it was no problem. So I was very grateful to them. But that cost me $700. So at this point, all in all, I mean, I know I've spent 10 grand on the thing, as well as time and just headaches over and over and over. Every season, it felt like I had an issue with these units. I had leaks all the time because there was a lot of pipe fittings, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, we used multiple different kinds of sealants at different times and nothing ever just seemed to work. I even used hydronic sealers, like thread sealants meant for hydronic systems, and it would still give me leaks, and I could never figure out why. I still don't know why to this day. And another thing that really just chapped my behind was you don't have this issue when you're heating, but when you're cooling, when you have 50-degree water going through water lines in your basement with units that can't properly dehumidify, what are you gonna get? Condensation. And it seemed like no matter how well I insulated these lines, which I insulated pretty well, obviously, other than around valves. I could get all the way around a valve, but you have the handle still, because obviously you want access to it. So unless I'm getting like covers on every single valve in here, which I had valves on every branch, I had valves all around the tanks, so I could isolate things as I needed to. But everywhere there was a valve exposed, I got condensation, and every one of these is like rusting and dripping water. So I would have just drips in my basement because no matter how well I thought I did, I'd still get condensation off of these lines. And I think that was due in part to the fact that I didn't have enough indoor units to properly dehumidify. And I didn't talk about that either. I eventually discovered that while I originally didn't even have enough outdoor unit capacity for the size of my house, the indoor units didn't even remotely come close to my needed BTU capacity for the house. But I discovered this on my own just like a year or so ago. And I couldn't believe that when I did that whole manual J calculation and actually got with the company themselves and they told me I needed a second outdoor unit, how they didn't see that I also would have needed more indoor units. Now, a big problem with that being is I didn't want more indoor units. They're ugly. I would have had to put holes in either walls or floors to install more, and they just take up more wall space and make more of the house unusable. So I didn't want more indoor units, but I would have needed more indoor units to actually get enough heating and cooling that my house needs. So last fall 2021, my wife and I finally decide we're done. We don't want to deal with this thing. Almost every single season, heating and cooling season, we're dealing with something else, something going wrong on these, whether it's leaks. And right now I have a leak that I would have to pull the big extra heater off to deal with. And I was like, I don't want to deal with this. We've had nothing but trouble with these. I'm sure if everything worked as it should, this would be a great system, an efficient system, but it has been nothing but trouble for us. So last fall, my wife and I decide we're done. We're doing something else. I started researching stuff. I started researching different companies, different brands, and that leads us to this, a Mr. Cool DIY multi-zone unit. Now this particular one is a 36,000 BTU unit with 4 zones. I'm only using 3, and obviously, you know, if you pay attention, you can see that I still got a little bit to finish and tidy up, but these are all installed, connected, and up and running now. Now I actually have another one of these that I don't have installed yet. So I basically have one for this half of the house and one for the other half of the house. So yes, this is on my home. This is not on a garage, a shop. I'm using these to heat my house. So I am hoping and praying that come wintertime, these are plenty to heat my house in the wintertime when we get down to the pretty cold temperatures. Now I'm in Ohio, so we don't get crazy cold, but we do get pretty cold. So I'm hoping that negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit is true and will actually work for me here. But this is the project I have coming up next, the actual installation of this unit, not the other one yet. Like I said, it's not installed yet. It's gonna be coming. I still have one of the other units running. So basically that's serving that half of the house. This is serving this half of the house, as well as the basement. So this is what I've gone to. This is so far working much better. My house is cooler now and better dehumidified than it has been since we moved in. So these are already, with just half installed, performing better than the units I've had up until this point. Now, I purchased my units from Ingram's Water and Air. These are not sponsored videos. Mr. Cool did not pay me or give me anything, although I am willing. But yeah, I got my stuff from Ingram's. I called, I spoke to them. I gave them all my information about my house, my manual J calculation, my location, where I am, and they said I should be good with this stuff. So I'm hoping they're right, because I'm not really worried about cooling. I think the stuff can cool no problem. The biggest test will come in the winter when I have to heat the house, because this is my only source of heat. I have no backups, and I hope I don't have to get any backups. So I'll keep you guys up to date on that when the time comes, on if this is a suitable heating source for my house throughout the whole winter. I hope my huge financial loss and massive mistakes can somehow help you and prevent you from making the same ones in the future. If this helped you, please like, subscribe if you want. If you have any questions about all this crap, comment. I should answer. I don't get that many, so it's not that hard. But if you come back next time, I'm going to be installing this and you'll see what I did, because again, this is after the fact and I didn't have the luxury of being able to just run through walls and things like that. So yeah, check out my next video when I actually install this. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching my videos. All right, God bless, guys. See you later.